Hello, I'm Didona, and I'm going to present the work toward a better understanding and benchmarking of three data structures on flash SSDs. This is joint work with Nikolas, Ioannou, Radu, Stoica, and Kornilios Kourtis from IBM Research in Zurich. In this work, we identify 7 widespread pitfalls of benchmarking persistent tree data structures when deployed on SSDs. And we discuss their implications, such as obtaining non-representative and non-reproducible results, identifying suboptimal deployments, or carrying out bias evaluations. We analyze the low-level causes of these pitfalls, and we provide guidelines on how to avoid them. With this work, we aim to provide a better understanding of these complex systems and to enable more fair and rigorous benchmarking of these systems. We focus on tree data structures because they are a fundamental building block in many production systems, thanks to their ability to index a large amount of data efficiently. Similarly, we focus on flash SSDs because they are and are projected to be the medium of choice in today's and tomorrow's data centers, thanks to their excellent trade-off between cost and performance. What motivates our work is the fact that benchmarking persistent tree data structures on flash SSDs is a challenging task. In fact, tree data structures implement internal operations to maintain the integrity of the tree structure, and these operations generate complex write patterns toward the underlying disk. For example, LSN trees are organized according to a tiered architecture in which data is written multiple times from one level to the next one, implementing an operation called compaction that is similar to a merge sort. D+3 use linked nodes to store data and internal nodes to route queries to such data, and implement internal operations such as rebalancing. These internal operations lead to write extra data over the payload written by the user. This overhead is captured by the application level write amplification. It is a metric that is expressed as the ratio of the total amount of bytes written by the tree and the amount of payload bytes generated by the user application. Also, flash SSDs are complex systems. Their main characteristic is that they do not implement in-place updates. This means that to write new data to a page P, the SSD writes the data to a clean page first and invalidates the page that contains the old data. Periodically, the SSD performs garbage collection, which reclaims the pages that store invalid data. This operation might require rewriting valid data to new locations due to the fact that the SSDs cannot erase individual pages. Garbage collection induces extra write overhead that is measured by the device-level write amplification metric. This metric is computed as the ratio between the bytes actually written by the SSD to the flash cells and the amount of data written by the tree data structure. Now, I present the 7 benchmarking pitfalls that we identify in the paper. The first set of pitfalls comprises running short tests, ignoring the initial condition of the SSD, and not analyzing the device-level write amplification. These pitfalls lead to obtaining non-reproducible and non-representative results. The second set of pitfalls includes ignoring the tree's extra capacity requirement and ignoring the internal parameters of the SSD. These pitfalls lead to incomplete performance and cost analysis, and hence to identifying suboptimal deployments. Finally, the last 2 pitfalls are testing with a single dataset size and with a single SSD type. These 2 pitfalls lead to obtaining results that cannot be generalized. In the interest of time, in this presentation, I'm only going to focus on a subset of these pitfalls. In the experiments that we run to show our pitfalls, we use the RocksDB and WhiteTiger key value stores, which implement an LSM tree and a B+3 respectively. We use an enterprise-grade 400 GB NVMe SSD and consider by default a 200 GB dataset, which we load in the systems before the start of each test. We use a very small in-memory cache for the systems so that the data does not fit into main memory, and use a write-only workload to stress the internal operations of the trees and the garbage collection dynamics of the SSD. The first pitfall is running short tests. In the plot, we see the throughput of RocksDB and WhiteTiger as well as the read-write throughput of the SSD over time. What we see is that the performance varies over time, especially RocksDB, and importantly, the performance stabilizes only after several minutes in the test. This means that reporting the performance of a system after only a few minutes test, which is often the case, is not enough to capture the steady-state performance of the system. The second pitfall is closely related to the first one, and it is not considering the SSD device level write amplification. The bottom plot in the slide represents the write amplifications measured during the same experiment described before. The top plot shows the same throughput data seen before. By contrasting the top and the bottom plots, we see that analyzing the application level write amplification alone cannot justify the performance variability. However, typical performance studies only focus on this metric and neglect the device level write amplification. The importance of looking at the device level write amplification is especially clear in White Tiger. In this case, in fact, the application level write amplification is constant during the whole test, and only the variation in the device level write amplification can explain the performance variability exhibited by White Tiger. The importance of the device level write amplification is visible also in RocksDB. In fact, the throughput of RocksDB decreases by a factor of 3, but the application level write amplification only increases by a factor of 1.5. The third pitfall is using a single dataset size. The plot shows the performance of RocksDB and White Tiger for datasets of different sizes, expressed as a fraction of the total capacity of the disk. The plot shows that the performance of the systems heavily depend on the size of the dataset. In particular, larger datasets correspond to lower throughput. And in the paper, we also show that this throughput degradation is mostly due to the fact that the garbage collection overhead is higher for larger datasets. The plot also shows that depending on the size of the dataset, the comparison between the performance of RocksDB and White Tiger varies significantly. This indicates that reporting performance numbers only for a single dataset leads to biased evaluations and comparisons across systems. The last pitfall we discuss in this presentation is neglecting the tree space overhead. The plot shows the disk utilization of RocksDB and White Tiger when storing datasets of different sizes, again expressed as a fraction of the total disk capacity. We see that White Tiger can handle datasets that are up to 88% the size of the disk, while RocksDB can only handle datasets that are up to 62% of the capacity. This is because the LSM tree in RocksDB stores much more metadata than the B+3 of White Tiger. By being more space efficient, White Tiger can store more data than RocksDB given the same amount of disk capacity. This implies that there are cases in which White Tiger is more cost efficient than RocksDB, despite the fact that in general, we have seen that White Tiger has a lower throughput than RocksDB. In the paper, we provide a cost analysis that shows for which workloads White Tiger can be cheaper than RocksDB to maintain. In the paper, we also cover additional pitfalls. We analyze them more in depth, and we show how to avoid them. We also discuss additional workloads and related work. To conclude, tree data structure and SSDs are important components of modern storage systems, and analyzing their performance accurately is challenging. In our work, we present 7 benchmarking pitfalls that can lead to incomplete, biased, or wrong performance and cost evaluations of these systems. With our work, we aim to provide a better understanding of the performance dynamics of the systems and to provide guidelines for a more thorough benchmarking process. Thank you.